Hello, Conrad and Lucy and Caleb. Papa is here to tell you one of his favorite Fantastic Four stories ever. I can still remember walking into the store and picking up this comic book for a nickel. And I took it home and I read it, and then I read it again and again for a long time. This was my favorite comic book. And let me show the cover to you. It's the story of the Fantastic Four meeting with the X-Men. Now, I don't think y'all have seen the X-Men before. It's another famous supergroup, okay? And they're heroes. So why are the Fantastic Four fighting the good guys? Well, we'll figure that out as the story unfolds. Let me say that the villains in this story are the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master and the Awesome Android. And you can see the android in the background. He's big and he's holding on to the Fantastic Four. You know them. And also, here are the X-Men. Let me introduce you to them. Up here we have Angel. Angel has wings and so he flies. This red-haired heroine is Marvel Girl. She can move things with her mind. This is the Beast. He's large, he's strong, he's very agile. He jumps and climbs, and so he's very versatile. Here's the Iceman. He's kind of the opposite of the Torch because instead of flames, he turns into ice, and he can use his ice in all kinds of weapons. And then the field leader of the group is Cyclops, and he has powerful eye beams that can knock people over and destroy things, and so he's very powerful too. So the X-Men are 5 teenagers with superpowers, and let's just get into the story, okay? And we'll learn more as we go along. All right, the story opens up in the Baxter building, and here is Alicia. That's the Thing's girlfriend. Remember, she's blind, but she's an artist and a sculptress, and you can see she's made a statue out of the Thing, just working on feel. She says, I hope you think my statue does you justice, Ben. You know I have to work by touch alone. Thing says, it ain't bad, Alicia baby, considering that no statue could be as lovable as I really am in living color. The narrator breaks in and says, it's a typical afternoon in the skyscraper headquarters of America's greatest fighting team, which means that the only thing that we can expect is the unexpected. Okay, so here comes the Torch. He flies into the room. He says, hi sis, what are you and Reed looking at? The funnies are in the other section. Well, they're reading the newspaper. And Sue says, we're reading about the X-Men, Johnny. Reed says, it's amazing how famous they've become in such a short time. So the newspaper says, X-Men in a new exploit, and the Mystery X-Men first exclusive photos. So they're a new group in the Marvel comic series. The Thing says, X-Men, big deal. They're just a bunch of cornballs if you ask me. Who'd they ever lick? Sue says, Magneto, the Space Phantom, the Blob, Quicksilver, the Scarlet Witch. Reed adds, also the Toad, Mastermind. Thing says, okay, I get the idea. Johnny says, you left one out, little friends. Iceman and I defeated the Barracuda a few months ago. Reed says, oh, that's right, Johnny. You've met one of the X-Men. So in a different story, the Torch and the Iceman hooked up on an exploit, an adventure. All right, so here's a news picture of the X-Men. All right, Thing says phooey. They sound like a bunch of hero worshippers. You know, Alicia baby, if you ask me, you're a better sculptor than the puppet master. Or maybe it's just that you had such a great model. Alicia says, the puppet master. Sigh, I had hoped I'd never hear that name again. Well, who is the puppet master? Read along and we'll find out. Thing says, nuts, I'm sorry, Dollface. I forgot that he's your stepfather. I didn't mean to upset you by mentioning him. I guess I've just got a big mouth. Alicia says, don't reproach yourself, Ben dear. It's not your fault. So Ben looks out the window and he thinks, poor Alicia, what a crummy trick fate played on her. Imagine a sweet kid like that having a creep like him for a stepfather. Well, he better not try to come into her life again, not while I'm around. You see, Puppet Master is a villain. He is a sculptor who can use his radioactive clay to create models of people, and then with his mental power, he can control the person that's modeled in the radioactive clay. Okay, so it's a way for the puppet master to control other people, and we'll see how that plays a part in this story. In fact, little does the brooding Thing suspect that the one he's thinking about, the puppet master, is at that very moment about to pose one of the greatest threats of all to the Fantastic Four, because he's about to team up with another one of the Fantastic Four villains, the Mad Thinker. The Thinker is very smart, and he has a bank of computers, and he uses his intelligence and his computers to plan great strategies, and he can figure things out to the very smallest detail. And so we see the Mad Thinker looking at his watch, and he's saying, it is exactly 12 seconds to 4. According to my calculations, the puppet master should enter the doorway at this precise instant. Ah, there he is. And so at the door is the puppet master. He says, I received your message, Thinker, but you've contacted the wrong man. I won't help you. And then the puppet master looks and he sees the awesome android. He says, what is that? Where did it come from? Is it alive? The Thinker says, that happens to be my android, an all-powerful artificial creature created by Mr. Fantastic, but now obedient only to me, just as you shall be after I've explained my plan. By means of my oversized brain and my complex computer machines, I can learn anything, predict anything, accomplish anything. Even though you have been hiding for months, I found you easily by deducing exactly where you would be. And so here are the three villains in our story. The Mad Thinker, who has devised an evil strategy, and the puppet master, who will use his power to control the heroes in this story, and then the awesome android who's going to show up toward the end, and with his power he's going to enter and make this a great battle. All right, let's keep going. Puppet Master says, you were able to steal that mighty android from Mr. Fantastic? Then you must be even more brilliant than I heard you were. Thinker says, of course. That is why my plan to conquer the Fantastic Four cannot fail, and that is why you will help me. Puppet Master says, I've battled them many times in the past, but they've always defeated me. I finally gave up and went into hiding, but now, perhaps... Thinker says, exactly. With your strange power and my brain, I promise you that you shall succeed this time. Here is a lead-lined protective suit to shield you from radioactive poisoning. Put it on, for you are about to make your greatest puppet. You're about to win your greatest victory. Puppet Master says, "You sound so confident, I can't help but believe you." The thinker is outside this window using a microphone to speak to the puppet master. The puppet master is about to unleash his radioactive clay, and so the mad thinker is behind this protective glass. But he's speaking and he says, "For weeks I have examined every fact I could learn about the X-Men, trying to deduce what their leader looks like. On that table in front of you is a rough mold of a head which I believe must resemble the mysterious Professor X." Who's Professor X? Well, he is the teacher of the X-Men, and he has the greatest mental power of anyone in the world. And so we're going to see if Puppet Master will be able to control him. So let's see what happens. Look, he's raised the box, the lead-lined box that was containing his radioactive clay. The mad thinker is telling him, "Use that head as a model. I will now describe what I believe his body looks like. I want you to fashion a puppet of Professor X using your magical radioactive clay, a puppet that must obey your will." And so look, the puppet master is shaping a figure. The thinker is saying, "Good, good, don't stop. You are truly a master sculptor. When you have finished, Professor X will be in your power, and that means his X-Men will be ours to command." The thinker says, "It is done. Now concentrate, concentrate as never before. You must put him under your control. You must." Puppet Master says, "I will. I've never failed yet. Just be quiet. Let me keep looking at my puppet. Let me keep projecting my commands to it." And at that moment, in a quiet, isolated private school in the heart of Westchester County, one of the world's most famous mutants recoils in shock as a stranger's thought touches his brilliant brain. He realizes, someone is trying to exercise mental control over me. I can feel it. But though his body is confined to a wheelchair, his mind is the most powerful force on earth. With every ounce of mental strength he can muster, he fights back. He says, "No, no." Puppet Master says, "I'm not getting the desired result. Can my puppet be at fault?" Thinker says, "No, I expected this to happen. Use more radioactive clay. Increase your power. Hurry. I have it all figured out to the last centimeter. Use another 4 1/3 grams of radioactive clay. Hurry." Thinker says, "Enough. If you change the ratio by 1,000th of a degree, you'll upset all my prearranged calculations." Puppet Master says, "I'm doing my best, but the subject is still resisting. What manner of man is he?" What manner of man indeed? Professor X is far more than just a man, for he is a true mutant, one of the hidden race of Homo Superior, the men with an extra power, the X-Men. Oh, he's saying, I must fight the pressure in my brain. He's feeling the pressure of the puppet master trying to take control of him. He resists. He says, if an evil power gains control of me, what will happen to my X-Men? But you know, even an X-Man is not infallible. The mad thinker has estimated the exact amount of radioactive clay needed to affect Professor X correctly. And so, even though he says, for their sake, I must fight, I must resist, but I can't. The pressure is too great. I must obey. And so, finally, the magnificent brain of Professor X is put under the diabolical control of the puppet master and the mad thinker. And the puppet master issues a mental command. Professor X, this is your master speaking. You must do as I command. These are your orders. Seconds later, the hapless professor mentally summons his loyal students. He says, I have new orders for you. You must obey without question. Cyclops says, of course, sir. What are the orders? Then Professor X says, you are to find the Fantastic Four, trap them, and then destroy them. The Beast says, you can't be serious. It's some sort of joke. But the angel says, no, Hank, look at his eyes, his face. He's not joking. He means it. The Beast says, but why, Professor? There seems to be no logic to it. Professor X says, I'll decide that. Remember, the power of my mutant brain enables me to listen in to other people's thoughts. Thus, I have learned that the Fantastic Four plan world domination. They must be stopped, and only we can do it. Now, go! And so, they climb into this fancy jet copter, and it leaves the skyscraper heliport and approaches the top of the world-famous Baxter Building. One of them says, here we are. Remember the professor's orders. Get the Fantastic Four off guard. Make them think this is a peaceful visit. Inside the building, he hears an electronic alarm signal, and so Mr. Fantastic does some observing as only he can. His fantastic elastic neck stretches out the window and looks above, and he sees a jet copter landed on the roof, and getting out of it, it's the X-Men. They were just reading about the X-Men. And so, here they come. The Fantastic Four have no reason to suspect that the visit is not a friendly one, and so they remove the electronic barriers which guard their 5 tower floors. And then, here they come. The Beast whispers. They seem to be completely unsuspecting, Cyclops. Marvel Girl says, you're even lovelier than the pictures I've seen of you, Miss Storm. Miss Storm says, well, coming from you, dear, that's a real compliment. And please call me Sue. See, they're both very attractive, aren't they? Mr. Fantastic stretches out his arm to greet Cyclops with a handshake. He says, this is a pleasant surprise, Cyclops. We were just talking about the X-Men. Over here are the Thing and Alicia. The Thing is looking at the angel's wings. He says, mighty sharp wings you've got there, Sonny. What do they feed you? Bird food? Alicia says, Benjamin J. Grimm, mind your manners. The X-Men are your guests. And over here we have Iceman and Johnny Storm greeting each other because, as we said, they're old friends. Cyclops thinks to himself, much as I hate to do it, I've got to bait the trap now, as the professor ordered. And so he speaks to Reed Richards. He says, we've learned of an alien spaceship sighted on a remote mesa west of here. We thought you might join us in investigating it. Reed says, I'd like to, Cyclops, but I'm afraid we're all too busy right now. The Torch and I are putting the finishing touches on a nose cone I developed for the Air Force. We can't leave now. I'm sorry. Well, this is the answer that Cyclops expected. And so he says for the next phase of our plan, he thinks, I'll need my power beam. So look, he's adjusting his visor as the Torch uses his flame to weld some of the parts of the nose cone. All of a sudden, Cyclops blasts the nose cone with his I-beam. And Mr. Fantastic says, Cyclops, have you gone mad? The Torch says, hey, what gives? The Torch says, look out, Reed. He's aiming his power beam at you. Look at that. Bam, 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 bam. Mr. Fantastic has to stretch his fantastic body in order to avoid it. He says, don't worry, Torch, I can dodge it. Torch says, sure, but for how long? I'll put the kibosh on him my way. And so the Torch shows that he's got power of his own, and so he shoots his fire blast at Cyclops. But Cyclops says, it won't work, Torch. My widescreen force beam can hold back your flame as well as any other weapon used against me. Torch says, maybe so, but you can't keep it up forever, and if my flame outlasts your power beam, you'd better start heading for the hills, chum. Meantime, in the other room, they don't know that there's a fight going on. Marvel Girl speaks to the Thing. She says, we'd like you to come with us, Thing. We have our jet copter outside. Thing says, sorry, chick, I'm too busy admiring my favorite hero, namely big-hearted Benjamin J. Grimm. Marvel Girl continues, but it's vitally important. You must come with us. We have our orders. Thing says, oh, you have you? Well, mercy me. Now, ain't that a heart-rending state of affairs? Marvel Girl says, very well, if you want to be difficult, I'll make you accompany us like this. And she uses her mental power to pick up the statue of the Thing. Thing says, hey, what you doing to my pride and joy? But, oh no, the statue is too heavy for Marvel Girl's mental powers. She says, the statue is too heavy for me to suspend it by my telekinetic power. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to drop it. Wham! The Thing says, I can't look. It's like watching big, beautiful me get clobbered. Then he gets mad. He says, if you weren't a female, I'd demolish you. But the only thing I can do to a nut like you is give you the spanking of your life. Marvel Girl says, stay away from me. It was an accident. Keep back. And so she uses her telekinetic power. She says, I'll keep him off balance for as long as I can. And so she turns him around and around. Whirr. And he says, oh, stop. Come on, cut it out, would you? This is embarrassing. And so then Sue listens to all of this, and so she looks in at the door. She says, Ben, what's happening? Why is Marvel Girl using her mental power on you? Stop it, Marvel Girl. The Angel sneaks up behind. He thinks, uh-oh, it looks like the time for subterfuge is over. It's out in the open now. We'll have to use force. And so he picks up Sue and says, don't struggle, Miss Storm, and you won't be hurt. I'm sorry to do this, but we have our instructions. Sue says, put me down. If the others see you, they'll clip your wings but good. Iceman says, careful, Angel, don't drop her. And so then, look what the Iceman does. He uses his ice to fashion a rope, and he lassos her feet. He says, okay, you can put her down now. My frozen lasso will keep her from running away. Sue says, I warn you, boys, the Fantastic Four won't think this is the least bit funny. Angel says, we're not trying to be funny, Miss Storm. Meanwhile, in the other room, the Beast joins in the fight with Cyclops. And he says, you gentlemen are causing all of us a great deal of unnecessary discomfiture. It behooves me to show you the error of your ways. The Beast, even though he's quite strong, is also quite smart, and he has a big vocabulary, and he likes to throw around big fancy words. Well, Mr. Fantastic is bouncing around, and he says, here comes the Beast, Johnny. You handle Cyclops, and I'll handle him. Cyclops is still casting about his I-beam. He says, I'm warning you, Torch, stay back. Don't force me to give you a full intensity power beam blast. And so Mr. Fantastic uses his sphere-like shape to try to throw the beast off balance. But balance is what the beast does best. And so Mr. Fantastic thinks, first I'll roll the beast out of the way and then race back to help Johnny. But the beast is able to stand on his feet and even stand on his head. He possesses the agility of a jungle animal, just like his name suggests. Beast says, I appreciate the ride, my fantastic friend, but surely this isn't the time or place for a balancing act. Mr. Fantastic thinks, he's too nimble. I can't get him off balance. I'll try something else. So with the speed of thought, Reed unfolds his pliable body, and that hurls his articulate adversary off balance. The beast just won't quit talking. He says, now that was a rash, impetuous thing to do. And so Mr. Fantastic kind of folds up with the beast inside. But moving with cat-like grace, the beast recovers faster than Mr. Fantastic. And then he says, your flexible frame can be as much of a handicap as an asset, especially when a dexterous chap like me can bend you into the proverbial pretzel shape. Huh. Mr. Fantastic says, sorry, son, you're so in love with the sound of your own voice that you forget that others can be dexterous too, like this. And so Mr. Fantastic unfolds and he flings the beast off into the air. The beast says, I stand corrected, sir. But look at him bouncing around. Doesn't take him long to recover. But as John Paul Jones so sternly said, I have not yet begun to fight. And so he bounces around and through a machine and he comes back at Mr. Fantastic. He says, tisk tisk, your evasive action is merely prolonging the inevitable outcome. But Mr. Fantastic can mold his body and dodge the beast's attack. But Mr. Fantastic is thinking, if only I could learn their motive. Why are they fighting us? That is a strange question, isn't it? Why is this good guy team fighting another good guy team? Well, we know the answer, but of course the Fantastic Four do not know what we know. At that second, the momentum of his charge hurls the fast-moving beast smack dab into the Thing, whom Marvel Girl has been holding at bay via her telekinetic power. She sees the beast and she says, thank goodness it's you, beast. I couldn't hold him off much longer. The beast says, it's purely accidental, I assure you. Fighting the Thing isn't exactly my biggest ambition in life. Because you see, even though the beast is strong, he's not nearly as strong as the Thing. And the Thing turns his attention back to Marvel Girl. He says, I'll get to you in a minute, loudmouth. First, I want to keep this little tigress from getting away. So he grabs at her. And Marvel Girl says, Beast, do something. He's caught me. The Thing says, he'll do something all right. He'll go sleepy by after I connect with him. Hey, where is he? And so again, the nimble beast jumps out of the way. He thinks, I've got to stay away from the range of that pile driver arm of his. And there's Iceman, Beast says. Quick, my Sub-Zero friend, toss a frigid frost bomb at the Thing. Iceman says, you took the words right out of my mouth, Beastie. And look at what he did. He shot his ice at the Thing and he formed a great big ball of ice around his head. All the Thing can say is, glug. And then before the super powerful Thing can bring his muscles into play, his teenage foe engulfs his feet in blocks of quick freezing rock hard ice. And so now the Thing has his feet encased in ice and his head too. And Iceman thinks, hope that'll hold him long enough for us to finish our mission here. And now the epic battle is raging all over the Fantastic Four's headquarters. Mr. Fantastic says, Cyclops, don't train your power beam on those experimental ray machines. You're playing with disaster. Cyclops says, I'll take that chance. It's the only way to force you to surrender. And here comes the Torch flying along, trying to help Mr. Fantastic in his fight against Cyclops. Torch says, let me have him, Reed. I'll launch a fireball that even his power beam won't be able to handle. But Reed says, no, Johnny, I've made my decision. We've got to learn their motive for this attack. We'll pretend to surrender, then see what their plan is. Trust me, son. And then Reed says, you win, Cyclops. Put a stop to the fight, and we'll accompany you, as you asked. Cyclops says, a wise decision. First, I'll assemble everyone in this room, beginning with the Thing. And so Cyclops trains his I-beam on the ice that's covering Ben's head, and he's going to blast it off. So finally, the Thing gets his head covering off, and he says, okay, Iceman, it's clobbering time. But what about the ice cubes on his feet? Look at that. Now he has time to smash them, and so he's free of the ice. Reed says, Ben, hold it. The fight is over. Thing says, you can't do this to me. I was robbed. He wants to hit somebody. I don't blame him. Reed says, I know how you feel, old friend, but there's more to this than meets the eye. Now, shut off our ray machines. The next move is up to the X-Men. Thing says, I better land a haymaker on someone pretty soon. I don't want to grow up frustrated. Johnny says, I still don't get it. Why would they want to battle us? In the next room, look, they're capturing Sue and putting her inside a locker. Beast says, let's proceed with all deliberate speed, Cyclops. The FF may not remain submissive and docile much longer. Angel says, sorry, Miss Storm, we'll have to take you as a hostage to make sure your three partners follow us as they promised. You'll have enough air in this steel locker, and it will prevent you from trying any of your invisibility tricks on us. And so then Angel flies out the window. Cyclops says, okay, Angel, get the jet copter down from the roof and let's get going. Angel says, I read you loud and clear, partner, as he flies up in the air and he gets the jet copter. And look, the Beast is carrying the locker into the jet copter. He says, don't worry, Miss Storm. I'll be as gentle with you as possible. We regret the necessity for such extreme measures. Cyclops says, as soon as we're all aboard, head for destination A and be sure the FF are able to follow us. Beast says, from what I know about that quixotic quartet, they could follow a shadow in a pitch black cavern. And the words are hardly out of the Beast's mouth when the Thing smashes through the steel door, turns the wheel, and he says, they're running off with Sue. Gangway. Reed says, no need to tear the place apart, Ben. Everything is under control. We're going after them. But of course, Ben never bothers to use a door, right? He just smashes through the wall. Johnny says, I don't get it, Reed. Aren't you worried about Sue? Of course, Johnny, but I'm sure she's in no danger. Johnny looks out the window. This whole thing is nuts if you ask me. Look, there they go. Reed says, they want us to follow them, and that's what we'll do. We've got to see it through now. And look, there's Alicia. She's been put up on the shelf, and Ben is getting her down. She says, oh, Ben, someone placed me up there on the ledge. I heard everything that happened, but I don't understand. Reed says, that proves my theory. The X-Men mean no actual harm. They even put Alicia out of harm's way, where she would be safe. Johnny says, well, if that's how they act when they're being peaceful, I'd hate to see them when they're looking for trouble. Ben says, you just wait here, honey, until we knock some sense into those crazy little mixed up kids. Alicia says, be careful, my darling. And Reed puts his hand on Ben's shoulder and says, let's go, partner. Johnny has the pogo plane warmed up and ready for takeoff. And so the Fantastic Four are ready to go after the X-Men and to rescue Sue. And when we come back together again, we'll be ready to hear the rest of the story. There's much more action to come, and you'll see why this is my favorite comic book ever, or at least one of them, right? All right, I love y'all very much. Hope you enjoyed the first part of the story. I'm eager to come back and tell the rest of it to you. Love y'all. Bye-bye for now.